Everybody, this is Elisa and I am back. This time we are going to continue talking a little bit more about the blood. All right, so we talked a little bit about some of the idea of the formed elements. So the formed elements are the cells and the cell fragments. And there's a couple of kinds that you need to know, like some easy ones right here. Some low-hanging fruit is the erythrocyte. So urethra means red, cyte means cell, right? So it makes sense that that is the red blood cell. Okay, RBC is what we use a lot for short. The platelets are actually fragments of these cells that live in the bone marrow, and basically what they do is they live in the red marrow, right, of the bone, and they kind of here's like they would reach into different blood vessels with their little feet, and they break off tiny little things called platelets, and those are going to be what float around. Those are the fragments, and they come from the bone marrow. So that's what they mean by that. That isn't a very good blood vessel either, but oh, where's this? There's like a blood vessel. That might kind of look a little bit better. Yeah. Okay, so the next one is the leukocyte. So the leukocyte is the white blood cell. Like leuko is referring to lucid, right, cells, and so that's how they get their name. So we refer to those as the WBCs. And the thing about the WBCs is we're going to get into those at some length. So there's the kind that are we call the granulocytes and the agranulocytes. So the granulocytes, so there's like, a couple different kinds. The granulocytes are going to be like they have all of these little dots on them when you look at them under the microscope, and those are the granules, right? And so that's why we named them granulocytes, cells that have granules in them, right? So let's look at who they are. So we're going to look at neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, and then we'll look at lymphocytes and monocytes. Now, some of these cells are going to be doing things like going after specific types of bacteria, maybe. Others are going to be key in immune response. They're going to be the ones that make you really itchy, for example. Others are going to be the ones that help things like our vaccines work, so we don't get sick, like for second exposures, and all those good things. Okay. So here's what they look like. So these are the formed elements of blood. So right here is the good old red blood cell. Like most of your blood formed elements are going to be the red blood cells, like around 55%, as you'll see later, is going to be these. And they're important to kind of note that they have this nucleus that's not actually there, and that's why they're flat. It's a type of cell that at the very end has had its nucleus ejected or removed. Why? It's because it's going to be carrying a lot of oxygen, reactive oxygen, and that's could be, that's cancer town waiting to happen. So it was a really neat adaptive response. And so the shell is used to transport oxygen and carbon dioxide throughout the body, and it's actually got a really good shape for that, but we'll get to it later. Monocytes are these very large white blood cells, or leukocytes. You'll see these have they're going to have an irregular nucleus, and most of these leukocytes are going to have that irregular nuclear shape, as you can see here. They don't look healthy, but they are. That's what they're supposed to be doing. This is an eosinophil. So as you can see, it's heavily granulated. It's called an eosinophil because eosin is a type of dye. It's kind of pinkish. And so when we were first staining blood, looking at it under the microscope, it really picks it up well and it gets very bright. And we have some really great slides for that. So platelets, we talked about platelets earlier, right? So there are those here. We're going to do this the right way, right? Here's like a blood vessel in the bone marrow. Right, so we're going to meet the cells that actually make them. They live there. They just stick their legs into the blood vessels and break off those little fragments. We're going to use those later on when the clotting process, right? So plates are super, super key. Other cells that we're going to look at, let's see, we already saw erythrocyte, check that, monocyte, lymphocytes, right? So there's going to be B and T cells, so B and T lymphocytes, okay? There's some larger and smaller right here. So mainly what we're going to be looking at with those is how they either attack other cells using some really cool sniping methods, or create lots and lots of antibodies, right? Making those vaccines effective, or making it so when you have a second exposure to a certain type of pathogen, you are already prepared. You know who the bad guys look like. Let's have some. Here's the neat one. This is like a young neutrophil. I didn't mean to cross that out. I meant to underline it. Let's see if there we go. Right. Some of these are noted by the shape actually of the nucleus. It's more regular, right? Instead of the lobular, right? Lobular, lobular, meaning lobe, right? So that's what that's coming from. These are more lobular nucleus, as you can see here in a more mature neutrophil. And then also the basophils, which is another type of very important granulocyte. And we'll see here all these little granules that are inside are going to, when they come upon their use, are full of different types of cytokines and chemicals and elements that are going to trigger different types of reactionary cascades in the body, help that immunogenic response. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there for now because that's pretty much time. I'm really trying to keep all the videos under 10 minutes. And so we'll describe some of these more later on. But for now, I hope you're having a lovely day or a lovely evening. All right, bye-bye.